What's good, y'all? My name is Open Book. This is my partner.
Hey guys, this is Harith, and welcome back to Truspace.
Yep, and this is your Moon Transit report. Or not Moon Transit, but weekly horoscope. So let's get into the energy that we're going to be hit with within this week, and how we can best maneuver throughout all of it. So we have the Moon entering Virgo, trining the North Node in Taurus. How do you think this is going to affect us starting out the week?
So right now we're gonna be emotionally broad about practicality and what makes sense, and to harvest what we did on the moon and when the moon was in Leo, which allowed us to perform and express our creativity and what we like to have fun with. So the moon entering Virgo is allowing us to harvest and practicalize and put our performance or what we done into certain like routines and patterns so we could improve it. That's the what the moon and Virgo is all about, digesting our what our experience been so far. We're starting with the new moon in Aries and having this trine to the North Node in Taurus, which is our spiritual path. By harvesting and practicalizing what we have so far, we can create opportunity and which allow the North Node to open more possibility for us.
For sure. And it's Aries season, so there's a lot of integrate emotional integration and making sense out of the actions that we have been taking and trying to find, one of the more efficient ways to utilize our emotions in order to make our actions more effective. For sure. So the North Node is giving assistance for that because we've kind of been led and drawn to looking for more stability, if you get what I mean. People are starting to probe a little bit deeper. People are starting to look for the physicality, that is going to be presented. More people are starting to, look at the banks, starting to look at, can I withdraw my money, and starting to want more of that, starting to look towards that direction. And is my money even safe in these banks? Is my money even safe in whatever area? So we're already in that questioning mindset. So
Mhm.
it creates such a good energy for change in the more concrete things in our life, the more like in terms of job positions, in terms of certain resources and your position in the world. When a lot of earth trines happen, allows you to make physical changes within your world. So we should definitely watch out for them and utilize them if we really want to fix the solid things that we see within our lives.
Mhm.
And then the moon is making a sextile to Mars in Cancer. How do you think this is going to play out?
So this is allowing us to see an opportunity on how to integrate our passions and desires, which is run as directed a home, family, domestic issue, so we could improve our immune system, so we could improve our home and family, so we give it more life. I've been actually feeling this energy, Mars in Cancer, and I realized how much actually that is needed really in your personal life, since Mars is naturally debilitated in Cancer, so that area almost was brought to life, which is kind of funny. Mars rules your nervous system, so it brings nervous system signal life into that organ, like our body part. So having a sextile right now with the moon in Virgo, the moon is going to allow us to basically practicalize and see what we could do. How can we take better actions? Since Mars in Cancer could be quite impulsive and not know how to go about its actions about family, since it's direct, it's impulsive, and doesn't have a bigger understanding. But Virgo could give it that broader, practical point of view, since the moon rules Cancer, and that will help it to go better with these issues.
Yeah, for sure. Because with Mars and Cancer, we have the tendency, either we can be too passionate about comfortable things or be a little bit too aggressive at home. The Moon in Virgo is going to help feed us with the emotions of how can things be more efficient. And even if there's a lot of energy that's going at home, a lot of times, defensive, especially with Mars and Cancer, and we draw out that aggressive energy, that anger energy, it may be from the space of defense, in terms of we're trying to defend ourselves, or that's the trigger. but that doesn't necessarily mean that you can attack someone wrongfully in defense, if you get what I mean. Because if you look at it, why are you in defense? Were you really in danger? And those type of actions, is it someone just trying to get closer to you, or trying to be vulnerable, or a vulnerable moment that you've been exposed to, and because of that vulnerability you started to go on to the attack and started to get aggressive. Moon and Virgo is going to help you see the practicality of that energy. So Moon and Virgo, Mars and Cancer has been making you act aggressive. You might find more reason, where you can reason with yourself off your emotions, and can kind of calm yourself down, or find the best avenue to divert that energy. Maybe there is a rightful reason for you to act defensively, or to get aggressive, or to get passionate, or to really care about something. But how is the best way that that can be utilized within your life and within your world? The moon's gonna really make you want to have proof. So even if you don't feel that comforting, or feel like your passions is going towards something, you're going to be pulled into figuring that out. Where can they go? Where could that energy be of best service to, that can make you feel somewhat comfortable? And then Mercury is entering Taurus. How do you think this energy is going to be hitting us all?
So now we're moving away from the fast-paced thinking when Mercury was in Aries, is now to much more stabilized, fixated way of thinking. So now our thoughts, ideas, and what we're gonna be focused on communicating is gonna be all about fixated stability and what makes sense for our safety and security, essentially. But what we're gonna analyze and communicate is gonna be what basically the North Node, the Uranus, and Venus been pushing us to focus on, which is our safety and security. But Mercury is gonna now give you this lens to gather all the information to basically figure out what happened so far and figure out a way you could communicate this better and utilize it through your mind.
For sure. For sure. And we have a lot of activities from Mars. I mean, Mercury is going to link up with Uranus later on, passing over the North Node. So a lot of physical things is definitely, like what you're saying, is going to come to our mind, where we might even start thinking with our bodies, or thinking a little bit more physically too. Or a situation might occur in our life that forces us to start being a little bit more cerebral around our bodies and physical things within the world. Because often in Western civilization, we get so conceptual, we get all Jordan Peterson to start tongue tying ourselves in. Mercury in Taurus is a great wake up call to realize that sometimes some mental processes take slower. Sometimes certain conversations require patience and diligence, to really start to build a level of understanding. And that can take the wind out of our sails, and where you really have to start peeping details on a deeper level than we were doing before what we were doing before, peeping details in physical things. So this can be a real grounding effect for our mind, even though it may feel challenging. So yeah, very earthy energy on Monday, where there's a lot of assists for us to help make sense out of, with the moon in Virgo, or Mercury dominated sign, and then Mercury itself moving into Taurus. We're going to have a lot of energy to think through our problems, to make sense out of things, and to intellectually communicate what it is that we're trying to put forth. To intellectually, to be able to analyze the reality, the earth, material reality we see around us. So really peep that. Maybe Monday is a good day to look more into your finances, to look more into the solid things in your life, and try and get them in balance when things are in your favor. Yeah, that's how Monday is looking. Looking at Tuesday, we have the moon in later degrees of Virgo, opposite Neptune and Pisces. How do you think this is going to hit?
So right now, as you're emotionally focused on practicalizing and making sense about things, you're dealing with the oppositions or the difficulties of bringing your dreams and illusion into reality. So you got to be careful with how much of Virgo energy you utilize, because sometimes it could put you on the negative end, where you just focus on the micro things and you don't pay attention to the macro pictures of things, which Pisces do tend to utilize more. was gonna limit you on what you want to do since you want to reach somewhere. So you should definitely pay attention to this opposition.
Yeah, Neptune doesn't always, you know, when you're imagining things, when you're doing things based off of belief system, it's not always based off of something that you're seeing right in front of you. Normally, it's based off of an ideal that you want to be a part of, that you want to live in. But that ideal, if it's not grounded to some basis of reality, even if you can leave it in that high spot, in that high realm of reality, but without a base, you'll never be able to reach there. It has to
Mm-hmm.
have a connection with the physical world. If it's just an imagination, there's no line, there's no connection for it to come down and manifest in the world. It's gonna just stay there. So
Mm-hmm.
the moon in Virgo, that challenge is Neptune being in Pisces, making us cling to that ideal, and it's making us persuasible and influenceable um, to other people's energies and who's promising that ideals. But the moon wants us to see receipts right now. We want to feel somewhat progression forward. We want to feel like our efforts are being made sense of. So this could be a real good day to evaluate your belief systems and the dreams that you have. A good day of trying to establish that connection of what it is you want your emotions to work towards, what ideal it is that you're going to nurture and develop in a practical sense so you can actually make it happen. So this day may start to reveal, especially before the new moon, where a lot of things are going to get released. Um, in terms of our individuality and how we are expressing ourselves, this opposition can really free up some practical energy or free up a limiting belief system and connecting it with the reality that we are living in to give way for the seeds Aries needs to be planted to have room to be planted.
You know, this connect is connected to the debate between is work justified by faith or you just need faith by itself, which is what Neptune and Pisces is about. You can't just have faith, but you need work. And but this is the debate. Some people like work, some people like just to have faith, but you need both of them.
Hmm. I get what you mean, like work in terms of evidence, like proof, like physical. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. I see that. What about the trine? I guess it's the moon that's making to Uranus and Venus and Taurus.
So this allowing you basically to practicalize and take what you did so far with Uranus, being trying to be unique and original when it comes to achieving safety and security, and Venus trying to add some harmony, love, appreciation. So you could take what you've been building when it comes to there in Taurus, and when the moon being around in late degree Virgo, you could kind of manage these things around, manage your assets based upon how far this dream and illusion is to where you are, since you understand this opposition that's going on with Neptune and Pisces. It's almost like you're managing you resources so you could get to the end of the journey type of energy.
Interesting. Yeah, I get that. I get that. And then the moon and Virgo wanting to make sense of that of everything is really going to help us simulate all of this information because Uranus and Venus and Taurus could be creating a lot of change, like what we were talking about with that whole join up with all of those countries to create their own natural currency, Venus and Uranus. That is so Venus and Uranus energy in terms of Venus, the partnership, Uranus, the suddenness, the rebellious, to go up against and rival the US dollar, and the collective aspect being multiple nations coming together into doing this and it all being within the financial realm. Um, very shouts out that energy, but that is magnified within everybody. But just look how things like that may show you or influence emotions for you to want to make sense out of things, if you get what I mean. You see this drastic change that is happening over there, so you already start structuring. When you see stuff like that, you're like, oh shit, what's going to happen? You immediately start thinking about your own personal situation and your day-to-day habits. What it was put, because the clock is ticking. It lets you know that the clock is ticking and that change has to happen. So you need to have an organized situation. So we can really take advantage of and make some either whether it be financial moves or just really come into the know-how of our material reality and how we can best maneuver through that within this day.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
What about Moon and Virgo in conjuncting the Sun, Chiron, and Jupiter in Aries?
So as you're trying to practicalize and harvest what you did so far, you gotta be careful with the in conjunction to the Sun and Chiron and Jupiter in Aries, because you gotta take action and try to expand and extract knowledge and wisdom, and trying to deal with your wounds and sense of vulnerabilities and the mistakes that are being created with this vision and passion that you're trying to give birth to, this individuality. So you can't just digest and practicalize. You gotta continue taking action so you could fully actualize what this thing you want to give birth to, but give it enough time for yourself to digest. It's almost like you're trying to look through your head, your brain, but also digest what's going on with your stomach at the same time. But you don't know how both of them are two brains, so sometimes they get in the way of each other.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because Aries just trying to get ahead, trying to get things done, and Virgo, more so patience and trying to understand and break things down. So you can't break things down like what you were saying with digest things and get things going, and aka consuming or expend energy. Saying being active or whatever. Running and going and exercise. It's not going to. Your body has to do one or the either. So that's where that in conjunction comes from, where you might feel like you're being split between choosing of what makes sense and what you want to do, and it puts you in the awkward situation. But this is the perfect preparation for the full moon, because it's going to be a direct opposition where someone's literally going to make you decide between them, or you're going to have to be choosing between yourself or other people, your desires or what other people want, or what your relationship dictates. So this challenge, where it may not be anyone in particular challenging you to, either you're going to make sense out of the situation or follow your desires or individuality, should be the wake up call of the adjustments you need to make to your desires and your individuality, so that you don't have as rough of a time. Why isn't your desires in line with making sense, and why would it make things awkward or cause confusion? That's something for us to look into, and which will be exposed to us on Tuesday if we're on that side of the energy. So that's how Tuesday is looking. Looking at Wednesday, we have the beginning of the moon in Libra, the full moon with Chiron and Jupiter being there. How do you think this energy is going to go?
So right now with the full moon, we're gonna be releasing what no longer serving us in terms of how we go about creating a relationship and harmony, and how does that affect what we're passionate and aggressive about, and what we're trying to expand and trying to give birth to. So the full moon in Libra is gonna bring us like the emotional wake up call to balance things. If we went so far when it comes to being too separative with all this stellium energy going on with Aries, but if we did not, then the full moon in Libra positively could bring the necessary relationship enforcement to help us expand whatever we're trying to give birth to, and even bring the necessary people and relationship that could help us basically and prepare us for later on when we go to like a Libra season. But we wanted this touch up point.
Yeah, yeah, I get what you mean. What that full moon does, or what the moon being in Libra does, is challenge that need for balance. So you're gonna want to have relationships, or you're going to want to have balance around you, but whether your actions and your desires allow for those relationships to happen, now you're going to start to see the discrepancy of what your personal actions is doing in terms of the relationships that you're generating within your life, and what compromises you're going to have to make. A lot of times, the full moon energy may expose us to the compromise, especially with Aries and Libra, the compromises that we have to make. But it could be beneficial in terms of clearing up some of the obstacles that would have prevented us from making and compromising that actually would help out our individuality and push us forward and into life, because we are being stubborn or too individualistic, or so it can really free that up, maybe give you some type of social obligation, or put friends in your life that you feel a certain amount of responsibility to get you off your ass, to get you to stop thinking about yourself. Or it could be that challenge where a bunch of social obligations, you're supposed to feel a specific way and obligate to certain obligations, but that more personal action is needed, or that you would benefit more from following through your desires than if you were to just placate and conform, or to just fulfill the role that this other person is expecting of you. So there's a lot of friction that but it's going to be along the lines of compromising. But if you're on the right energies in terms of your individual expression, and this is who you are, and this is who you're trying to be, and you're trying to plant the seeds for the ability to be who you are, then whatever friendships float away because of that expression weren't meant to be there. And whatever do come in are the ones that truly align with that true self. But you have to have that real level of honesty.
Mm-hmm.
It's huge at that moment. What about the in conjunction with Uranus and Venus and Taurus?
Mm-hmm. So this in conjunction is forcing you to be aware of this blind spot that is happening, like we were speaking earlier about economics and all this type of forces joining up together. So as we're trying to see how can we go better about balancing our relationships for the sake of our individuality, we may not see what's happening when it comes to how can we be more unique and original and pay more love and appreciation to our sense of safety and security, since we're paying attention to just balancing things and being harmonious on a communicative level, which might make us forget the necessary for paying attention for physicality and things along this line.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Um, I see that with Libra. Yeah, in order for balance, you may not be necessarily thinking about what's most stable, because you're trying to come back to an equilibrium. Like Libra's trying to come to a balance a lot of the time. Taurus comes from a place where maybe there was initially balance, if you get what I mean. Or balance is trying to be maintained, not established. So it's a different type of energy where they don't necessarily understand each other.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's the energy Wednesday is looking like. Looking at Thursday, we have the moon in late Libra in conjuncting Neptune and Pisces. How do you think this is going to affect us?
So as we're experiencing all this emotional release and letting go, so we could know and find better ways to deal with our relationships, we're gonna pay attention to Neptune and Pisces. What type of people and relationship that might come by that's gonna affect our dreams and illusion, and know that what's going on with Neptune and Pisces is more important than any relationship that we may think is even important.
For sure. And we may see that feeling of wanting to bring balance to things, that wanting to people please, wanting to be there for other people, wanting to fit within what they expect of us,
Mhm.
can put us in those uncomfortable, awkward situations where we're being influenced by energies that we normally wouldn't have had. Or it's kind of like you're getting caught up within their web of influences because you agreed to exchange energy with them.
Mhm. Like
And then mhm.
like I have a great example of this. Like I'm forced to go to certain religious events based on relationships, family, but from a higher perspective, I don't want to get caught up by all these different dreams, illusions, imagination that's being pushed there. So sometimes I gotta avoid these relationships, but they don't understand that I don't want this to be part of my subconscious mind or part of
Yeah,
what I manifest, because I see how far they manifested. So like from a far point of view, I know I don't be part of this energy.
yeah, yeah. I get what you mean. I get what you mean. But the energy is like you're supposed to. It's kind of like the social contract, but yeah, there's a bunch of energies that's behind the scenes that you don't want to get
Mm.
involved with. beyond the social construct, the fine
Mm-hmm.
print in the social construct, but that nobody's not trying to shed light on.
Exactly, exactly. And even I tell them about it, they won't believe it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And that's Pisces energy. If you were to try and get at somebody for their belief or something like that, they'll just say, "I don't. That's not what it is," or I don't believe that." It's very escapable, loose. The fish, trying to catch the fish, you can't catch it.
Mm. And you trying to use a Libra like legal terminology, and like it wouldn't even wouldn't even work.
But yeah, that's how Thursday's looking. Looking at Friday, we have. Oh, I didn't even show Thursday. That's okay. Looking at Friday, we have the Moon conjunct the South Node in Scorpio. How do you think this is going to hit?
So right now, we're gonna be emotionally fixated and stubborn on our feelings and emotions and our vulnerabilities. And the conjunction to the South Node is gonna accelerate the process to see what we need to transform, so we could get out of our emotion. But the purpose for the moon in Scorpio is to obviously develop like emotional solidity, like some like emotional solid state of being in your emotion compared to other earth water signs like Cancer, Pisces. There's no stability there. So like the moon, while the moon being in Scorpio is allowing us to transform, so we could figure out emotional stability through finding our vulnerabilities.
Yeah, and remember, Aries is the warrior. Aries isn't necessarily open to vulnerabilities, even though Aries is the first one to put itself into vulnerable situations because of that newness, because of that new energy. So there's definitely that Plutonian energy there. But to be able to sit within those energies, to understand what they are and to become comfortable within them, Aries doesn't have that ability. But that's where Scorpio can come in and really help us um, experience those vulnerabilities and kind of learn from them, kind of emotionally accept certain things, because Aries is always going to try and get past things onto the next one, onto the new one, and maybe not fully integrate an experience and how it had made them feel. The moon in Scorpio, however, let alone conjuncting the South Node, is really going to make us sensitive to the emotions that we are holding on. So it's going to be like double intensity in terms of we may be really forceful and dynamic in how we take action and look at the world, but that intensity is going to be matched by our emotional reaction, if you get what I mean, especially coming off of the full moon, where a lot of things were being tested, your individual expression tested against your relationships. Now it's going to see how open these things would be. Maybe your relationships started laughing at you, in terms of the desire, the person that you had trying to present yourself, and because the energies weren't aligned, they're making fun of you. And now moon in Scorpio, you're feeling vulnerable, or you're feeling like your emotions are exposed, and you're trying to look through your emotions to see where things had gone wrong, or what emotions or what energy from your past that you're holding on that put you into that vulnerable state of being. So it could prove out to be embarrassing or revealing, or like poking on a sore spot, if you will, especially coming off of this new moon, to find our vulnerabilities. But it could also lead to, like what Harith is saying, a little bit more comfort with our vulnerabilities, especially if we've been in the Aries energy and been in that trial and error energy, and are honest with our self-expression. Sometimes your desires are wrong, or sometimes they're off. But if the way that you went about it was honest and true to your desires, sometimes you just have to do something to really know. So if people might try and be holding you on to that, but if that's the energy that you're into, you don't have to worry about it as much. But it takes that honest expression. What about the trine to Neptune in Pisces that the moon is making?
So this trend is creating opportunities for us to basically utilize with what's going on with our dreams and illusions, essentially. But since the moon and Scorpio is allowing us to transform and become more emotionally solid, we're seeing that these dreams and illusions that they don't have to be so la la land. We could go for them, but by stabilizing ourselves emotionally. But also Neptune and Pisces could bring the necessary wisdom and broad understanding for us if we get stuck in those emotional fixated spots.
I get what you mean. Yeah. That's always true in terms of that's what people say with Scorpio. Sometimes the best thing for Scorpio energy is another Scorpio or other water signs, whereas the fire signs would try and warm Scorpio up a little bit too fast. The water signs will understand the energy that Scorpio is in and allow it to dissipate or turn into a liquid at a slower state, aka compensating for the level of vulnerability because the other water signs understand the sensitivity, understand being exposed to emotions. So if somebody took it and deeply internalize it, they understand how that can happen. A Cancer sees because that's the beginning of that stage, and a Pisces sees because they're the ending of that stage. So it really does help with the processing of emotions, where you connect with a certain belief system, whether it be religion or we don't realize how deep belief runs in our the veins of society, and how we allow it to. I was one of the main driving forces for society. Everything in society is based off of belief. You believe people are supposed to act a specific way, and we all agree to a degree, but none of that is real. There's no God didn't say none of that shit. God didn't say that you had to do this, that, and the third. God didn't say that you had to do it within this way, that way, this way, and that way. Even the people who have laws, even the people who said their laws come from God, are going to wiggle and finagle and fucking do the whole lawyer witcher rules swip and try and squeeze and change the laws that are supposed to be followed. But that's because the base reality is that there are no rules and laws to be followed. And what you believe really builds the world that you see around you. So if you utilize that ability in the right way, you can have, through a belief system, through a way of looking at the world expansive enough, you can have more than enough room to liberate your vulnerabilities, to have more than enough ways to organize things within your mind in healthy ways based off of that belief system. Or things can become rancid and toxic and build up and start to ferment and start to deteriorate your other emotions and start to spread like that. So it all depends on how you use that belief energy. What about the moon's opposition to Uranus and Venus and Taurus?
So as you're emotionally focused on transformation, so you could have a better sense of stability within yourself. You gotta deal with the difficulty of trying to be more unique and original and try to show more love and appreciation for your safety and security. Because you guys gotta remember, we live on Earth, so it's so important to pay the bills. And it doesn't matter if we're even we know even though we might feel emotionally safe, that even at the end might mean nothing, because if we have nothing to present, which makes a lot of sense since we live on the planet Earth, so we can't run away from that lesson.
I get what you mean. I get what you mean, where that may help with the integration or the realization of the vulnerabilities or the energy in the past that has been held up or liberated. And that might this opposition might give us the energy to help liberate that energy of the past. Maybe because physical reality is requiring us to move. It's requiring us to move forward and to progress, and it's creating these sudden changes that are affecting us greatly, that we can't just sit and necessarily wallow in our insecurities or vulnerabilities, or at least we're more than aware that those specific vulnerabilities are going to hold us back, or they're going to get in the way of us making those executive decisions. So I feel like there's going to be pressure for us to overcome our insecurities and vulnerabilities on Friday because of that opposition, where physical reality is going to demand that you establish some emotional stability. But yeah, that's how Friday's looking. Looking at Saturday, we have the moon in Scorpio opposite Uranus and Taurus. We just talked about that. Mars in Cancer sextiles Mercury in Taurus. How would you go about this energy? Look at this energy.
So as our mind is focused on stability and what makes sense and looking deep at what's happening on the earth right now, Mars, being our passion and desire, is focused on comfortability, could see an opportunity on helping our mind, our thoughts and ideas to find the stability that it needs through putting the right passion into the right emotion that Mercury in Taurus could help us stabilize and see more opportunity on how can we utilize it, but utilize our passion desires properly.
Exactly. Grounding energy. These are both motherly energies, but the two sides of the mother. The mother that wants to shelter you, protect you, nurture you, make you feel all right, and the one that wants to make sure your boots are tied. The one that wants to make sure that you're just up warm. The one that wants to make sure that you're practical. If you get what I mean. Or
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
so Mars in Cancer is not always going to be practical. That passion, aggression is not always necessarily going. That is not going to go to building towards something all the time. Sometimes it can be just wasted, going to destruction, building toxicity, all different type of shit. Um, and we may not even know how to use this passion and energy we have for home, for
mm-hmm.
nurturing. We not even know how to utilize it in a productive way. Mercury and Taurus is going to be like a little download where, or like something just comes in and it shows you an outlet for that passion, for that energy, something for you to protect that leads to making sense, that leads to resources.
I was thinking about Mars in Cancer being a crybaby, and then it's just yelling and crying, and then you giving it a coloring book, so it could focus all that energy and
The killing,
stabilize it.
yeah, yeah, I get what you mean, and putting it within the senses, the sensory type of input. Yeah, for sure, for sure. And with Mars in Cancer, that is definitely because Mars doesn't like being in Cancer, so it has a lot of energy to be used. Mercury and Taurus might give us the mental patience
Mm-hmm,
to
mm-hmm,
see the outlet and to not rush and make quick decisions like what we would have with Mercury and Aries, or like what we're going to do a little bit more with Mercury and Gemini. But to slow down our thought process a little bit might give Mars and Cancer, this overreacting, more time for us to see the practicality. And maybe we would stop judging our emotions or stop feeling as defensive at home, and really start caring about shit and utilizing that care as energy and fuel to, and then
mm-hmm,
we have the patient
mm-hmm.
mentality to start building with it.
Mars in Cancer could make us very like passive aggressive. We initiate this action, but we don't know how to go about it. Mercury in Taurus will kind of give us more stability.
Mm-hmm. Your feet are on your toes. So you can't be too flunked out, you can't be as flunked out. Mercury and Taurus is definitely going to help that our aggression, 100%. So yeah, that's how Saturday is looking. Looking at Sunday, we have the Moon in Sagittarius making a square with Saturn in Pisces. How you think this is going to hit?
So as we're emotionally focused on expressing our broad and decisive visions and passion based upon our experience and meaning and reasoning, based upon our transformation in the moon in Scorpio and what we experienced so far, considering we had the full moon in Libra, we want to see the wisdom and knowledge. We want to see how far we understand and express that. But the square with Saturn, Saturn is creating or bringing reality into our subconscious mind to see the boundaries of that. And as you're trying to emotionally express your meaning and reasoning and how much knowledge you have, you might see that you still have learning opportunity that Saturn and Pisces have to show you, and you may not understand since the moon in Sagittarius is gonna make you quite restless. So you're gonna try to move around and express all these things, but as you're trying to do it, you're gonna see all how the dome of Saturn is pushing against you, essentially. And this is where you're gonna have to learn how to be like a mental pilot.
Oh, I get what you mean. Yeah, for sure. The Moon in Sagittarius might cause more of a reckless expansion or a reckless pursuit of experience where we don't understand the full implications that are being held with Saturn and Pisces. And it may not just simply be a boundary that we are forced to bounce ourselves off of, but it may be a cage. It may be, like a defending soldier, if you get what I mean, or like somebody, like a level of authority who's there to defend against or to attack you for approach in a specific area. So it's definitely not the time to be acting recklessly. It's not the time to be chasing any experience, if you get what I mean. You
Mm-hmm.
have to understand Saturn's in Pisces, and there's being boundaries and limitation being placed upon dreams and imaginations. So Moon in Sagittarius squaring Pisces, instead of chasing experiences to expand ourselves or to directly challenge those boundaries, which maybe you can, or maybe that works out within your situation. But instead of
Mm-hmm.
directly challenging Saturn right now, try and find the meaning and the boundaries that you find around your imaginations, or just the influences that you're able to have with everybody. Our ability to connect into that Brahman, to that mass consciousness that is Pisces, that collective subconscious. Um,
Mm-hmm.
what does it mean, Saturn being in Pisces, and what does that mean to our emotions? Kind of being more of that examinatory, philosophical type of energy where you're in it for the journey. You're not trying to reach the end of the journey. You're not trying to be the pirate king, right now. You're willing to go through 1,000 episodes, 10 arcs, to understand it, if you get what I mean. Because Saturn
Mm-hmm.
and Pisces is no joke.
It's almost like this reminds me of like going to a holy war and you don't realize the consequences of what you're gonna initiate.
Yeah.
Your people is gonna go take over the land, kill people, rape them, and that might tie you guys in such a mental, spiritual way where you guys children in the future might become like mentally like fucked up and all type of shit, and you might see the reality of like what you guys done in the past.
100%. 100%. So, especially with the sun being in Aries, it's only going to add more fuel for this desire, because we're going to want to see how far we can go. What does our individual expression mean within the first place? So this is where the levels of honesty are so important. Whenever the sun or major planets are in fire signs, or you're trying to work with that energy, honesty is how you maximize and get the most out of it. Because once you start that square and that challenge with Saturn and Pisces, at least clash with the authority levels, at least clash with the boundaries and limitations in your life, with the genuine honesty, with genuine expressions of yourself, with genuine learning experiences that you had to go through in order to learn. So when you go and meet Saturn and Pisces, it's the boss battle that you need to go through. It's not and it's anything that's unnecessary. It's a challenge that you need to face to progress further onto that journey. And we can use that Aries energy, and that fire trine energy, to aid us with that fearlessness, and we can use that to tackle on that Saturn and Pisces with a little
Mm-hmm.
bit more confidence.
It's an unseen challenge. This is what makes Sagittarius and Pisces
Mm,
interesting. You can't see the challenge. It's like behind the scene where
an
Mercury,
unspoken boundary.
while Mercury and Virgo is much more kind of easier. Like it's an exam, and you can see it, and you can see the paper and like what to do. With Pisces
Mm-hmm.
and Sagittarius, you don't know what to do. You gotta just go through your experience and figure out later on,
Yep.
which is the hardest part too.
100%. 100%. Yeah, and then what about the in conjunction with Mars in Cancer and Mercury in Taurus that the moon in Sagittarius is making?
So as we're focusing on our broad experiences about God, this puts us in the energy to be hippies, and Sagittarius tends to have this, which made them kind of separate away from home. And with the in conjunction to Mars in Cancer, it's forced you to put passion and desires into your home or your family, but emotionally you don't have time for that because you got all these broad experiences and meaning and reason you want to extract. But Mars is calling you to pay attention and be passionate about home. And then Mercury, you don't see that you need to think about stability, what makes sense, and finding safety and making sense out of your reality because you're focused on broader spiritual ideas that might help you to obviously be optimistic and continue your journey to push on this Aries season, but also could make you quite unrealistic and delusional, like someone like drunk auntie essentially.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow, that is very interesting. Yeah, because Mars and Cancer wants you to care and catch feelings, and Mercury wants you to think about what's stable. And none of those things are stuff that Sagittarius energy does. They're just
That's why they become hippies, yo. They separate
yeah,
from home, like automatically.
yeah, 100%. So there's not that emotional attachment, nor that drive for stability. But the in conjunction would present challenges. So maybe that moon in Sagittarius, as it's trying to expand and then be optimistic, it realizes the limitations of, oh, I don't have enough care or passion. Maybe you're trying to experience something and somebody else comes and shows you that they really care. You know what I mean? Like they really want that shit, or they're really defending something, and that's something that they're really vulnerable about. And maybe you're trying to expand the territory and jump into it, and you get the pinchers, or somebody else, really wants that stability and they go and flex on you, they go and buy that shit, they go and flex on you or whatever it is, just because they're more stable, they go and show that. So you might find that with that in conjunction, it puts you in that place where you can't just be the philosophical hippie, if you get what I mean. You have to get a little taste of reality.
Yeah.
Hmm. So yeah, that's how Sunday's looking. I guess that's how the week is looking. So yeah, stay above the water, guys. Most important thing this week is that full moon, and we really have to let go of our preconceptions about relationships in terms of what we already know of what relationships can be. When we better ourselves and we come into more genuine expression of ourselves, our relationships are going to reflect those things. So that's what we really have to pay attention to, in order to get those relationships within our lives. And this release energy, we have to really allow those negative expressions of selves to come to the surface. Let people, don't be too embarrassed if your friend goes and tells you that you were doing something wrong, or that certain obligations showed you that you were being selfish. Don't let that make you crawl into a hole or be more compliant in terms of subservience and just doing what other people want you to do. Use this as information and release what hasn't been working. You That individuality is needed if you're ever going to have a fulfilling and balanced relationship. You just compromising because you didn't know how to be yourself or be an individual isn't going to lead to your overarching happiness. It's actually going to lead to more miserability. And understand,
Mm-hmm.
this is spring season. This is the beginning. We're spreading our wings right now. You shouldn't be so in this conclusionary stage. We still need to be testing ourselves out as mental pilots and seeing how far we can go. This is the
Mm-hmm.
first shedding of what doesn't work, and
Mm-hmm.
we need a high level of honesty.
And this is the beginning of the year. We used to get to start going through the entire body of like starting with Aries and then we go through Taurus, Libra, and so on and so forth. So you want to have a good start. It's almost like we're gonna travel through the entire body.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. But yeah, that's how the week is looking, guys. Check out our website, truespace.biz. Check out our Instagram, truespace underscore. And yeah, catch you guys later.
Take care.
Mm-hmm.